My boss told me some CEO mistook me for a robot in the showroom and wanted to buy me for a ridiculous price. I was gonna say no, but he offered way too much money. My boss said that as long as I was obedient and professional, I could totally pass for the real thing. I just had to keep it up for 3 months until an actual robot replacement was ready. The next day, I was shipped off to the CEO's mansion to be his butler. The CEO himself came to the door to greet me, but the moment I saw him, the professional smile plastered on my face almost cracked. It was my high school nemesis. I was a sales rep for a smart butler robotics company, responsible for selling high-end butler bots. Yesterday, my boss said someone mistook me for a robot and wanted to buy me. I was floored. Boss, I know I'm broke, but I'm not ready to sell my body just yet. The boss gave me a pained, disgusted look. The client's a CEO. A man. Where is your head at? I've already put in a rush order at the factory for a robot that looks just like you. When it's ready, you'll just break down. He'll send you in for repairs and I'll swap you out. Simple. I get it. I'm a handsome guy, so making a robot that looks like me makes sense. But the rush order I didn't get. So why can't Mr. CEO just wait 3 months? My boss looked at me like I was an idiot. 3 months? That ship will have sailed. The competition is fierce these days, and it's not like we're the only robotics company out there. That sounds like your problem, boss. What does it have to do with me? I'm just a pretty boy slacking off for a base salary. Seeing my indifferent expression, my boss scoffed. $1 million. For 3 months. $1 million. 3 months. I immediately dropped my lazy, couldn't care less attitude and declared righteously, it's an employee's duty to help the boss out of a jam. This is the least I can do. The next day, decked out in a sleek uniform like a real robot, I was delivered by a truck driver to the so-called CEO's massive villa. I heard from a colleague that my new client was the famous CEO of Genesis Corp, Milo Sterling, a refined and generous man. That put me at ease. A CEO is usually swamped, especially one from a major corporation. He wouldn't have time to bother with me, which would make it even easier to slack off and cruise through the next 3 months. This was going to be the easiest million I ever made. I was already daydreaming about a life of luxury and debauchery, and I couldn't keep the smile off my face. The moment I saw him, however, I regretted everything. Refined and generous? Petty and vindictive would be more like it. All these years, and he's still holding a grudge. Getting a robot that looks just like me so he can torment it. What a pathetic way to get his revenge. In my dedication to my new role, I'd been so busy studying the butler's essential skills and etiquette that I forgot to look up the full name of the CEO of Genesis Corp. If I'd known it was him, I never would have come. Well, maybe I would have. For more money. His name is Milo Sterling. He was my sworn enemy in high school. Back then, everyone knew that I didn't get along with our class president, Milo Sterling. There wasn't any big reason for it. I don't know if he'd studied his brain into mush or what, but he always seemed to have it out for me for no reason at all. If I slept in class, he'd tell the teacher. If I snuck a smoke, he'd bring the dean over to catch me in the act. If I started dating someone, he'd stir up trouble and break us up. He was such a snake. To this day, I still have no idea how I ever pissed him off. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I cornered him on his usual route home from school, planning to intimidate him a little and show him that Leo wasn't someone to be messed with. After waiting for 2 days, I finally caught him. I backed him into a corner. He was a bit taller than me, but I definitely had the upper hand in terms of sheer attitude. Milo Sterling, you don't really think you're all that, do you? I'm warning you. Mind your own damn business. He frowned, his expression unreadable behind his glasses. He was scared. Seeing him trapped with nowhere to run, I patted his cheek smugly. Call me daddy, apologize, and maybe I'll think about letting you go. He grabbed my hand, his gaze cold. You'd better not mess with me. Excuse me? Who started messing with whom here? I was young and hot-headed back then. Words failed, so we started fighting right then and there. The result? I got yelled at. By everyone. Of course, they all sided with him, the star student. They made it seem like I was the one bullying him. I never forgot that. From then on, I went out of my way to cause trouble for him, and eventually I did get my revenge. I snapped back to reality, looking at Milo Sterling, whom I hadn't seen in 8 years. A flood of mixed emotions washed over me. He still wore glasses, but he seemed much more reserved and inscrutable than before. I wasn't that impulsive kid anymore. I've seen my share of the world, and I quickly composed myself. Who am I to argue with money? Maintaining the artificial smile of a robot, I bowed as if meeting him for the first time. Good day, sir. I am your butler bot. You may now assign me a name. He didn't reply right away. Instead, he stared at me for a long time, so long I was afraid my cover was blown. I was sweating bullets. But then I thought, the smart robotics industry has come a long way. Most bots today are visually indistinguishable from humans. The prime directive of a butler bot is absolute obedience to its master. Theoretically, as long as I obey his commands and he doesn't physically inspect me too closely, I should be fine. No need to panic. I just stared back. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. Then I'll call you Leo. I knew it. Very good, sir. The villa wasn't huge. He was the only master living there, along with a few maids. The moment I arrived, Milo sent all the other staff home. I was left to do all the work myself. He even exploits robots. What an evil capitalist. But for that kind of money, I could put up with it. Fortunately, the CEO was a busy man and wasn't home often, so he didn't have much time to give me a hard time. The next time I saw him was late one night, about 2 weeks later. He came back very late, and I had to drag myself out of bed and plaster on a smile to greet him at the door. He'd clearly been out schmoozing with clients. I could smell the alcohol on him. I braced myself for the humiliation and revenge I was sure was coming. But to my surprise, he just relaxed on the sofa and made small talk, asking what I did all day, what advanced features I had, my manufacturing date, and things like that. I answered these questions almost daily, so I was able to rattle off answers and even embellish them with some over-the-top praise for my company's products. He leaned back on the sofa, his brow furrowed and his eyes closed, looking exhausted. I thought he was about to fall asleep, so I tactfully shut up. I was about to cover him with a blanket. I was dead tired myself and ready to clock out. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. Why'd you stop talking? Your voice. It sounds just like his. By the way, have you ever met the real Leo? Your boss said the real Leo used to work for him, and because he had such a handsome, clean-cut face, they mass-produced robots using his likeness. Mass-produced what? That sleazy merchant never asked for my permission. I was wide awake now. This is gonna cost you extra. He suddenly grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. He studied my face and said, "It really is a good-looking face. The best I've ever seen. You think I need you to tell me that? And what's with the handsy stuff?" Of course, I didn't forget I was a respectable robot. I forced a polite smile and answered, "Thank you for the compliment, sir. I do not know the real Leo personally. My manufacturing date was last month. Perhaps Mr. Leo left the company before then." Milo looked down, seeming a little disappointed. He sighed and murmured, "Is that so? Then I guess I'll never see him again." What a thing to say. I just quit the job, I didn't die. Okay? But his attitude wasn't what I expected. I thought that, with me being a robot in Leo's skin, he'd beat me up or curse me out to get his psychic revenge. Could it be a crisis of conscience? Has he finally realized he was a jerk back then? After some thought, I decided to test the waters. If you'd like, I can ask our boss about Mr. Leo's whereabouts for you. No, it's fine. Don't bother him. He probably hates me, right? He wouldn't want to see me. True. If I'd known you were the CEO, I generally wouldn't be here. When did he become so self-aware? This has to be a trap. I probed further. Was Mr. Leo a friend of yours? Milo shook his head. How could we be just friends? Of course. If you're not friends, then you're holding on to this memory so you can find a chance to screw me over. He then continued slowly, he's my ex-boyfriend. Huh? Ha! Ha! Dude, do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? No matter how much of the world I'd seen, I couldn't handle Milo spouting such nonsense with a straight face. I swear to God, first of all, I'm not gay. Second, there was absolutely nothing between me and Milo. So what is this? Some new form of revenge? spreading baseless rumors to attack someone mentally? But I'm a robot now. Oh right, I'm a robot. I immediately wiped all inappropriate expressions from my face. He must have seen my shock because he smiled wryly and continued, well, maybe not in his mind. He confessed his feelings to me and I accepted. But he turned around and forgot all about it. I'm the only one who still remembers. Seriously, man? Are you for real? I mean, I think I actually did confess my love to him once. But that was because I thought he was homophobic and I did it on purpose just to gross him out. Besides, I threw confessions around to tons of people. Who takes that seriously? Back in senior year of high school, a pretty girl in our class named Chloe was pursuing me. I liked her too, so I said yes. Chloe was great. She'd bring me snacks and patiently help me with my homework. Unfortunately, our happiness was short-lived. There's always someone who can't stand to see others happy. And we broke up after only a couple of days. Back then, we picked our own seats every month, with the top-performing students getting first choice. I was always at the bottom of the class, so I picked last. But everyone knew Chloe and I were a thing, so they'd always leave the seat next to her open for me. But that jerk Milo, who always got the top score, would deliberately wait until after Chloe picked her seat and then sit right next to her. I had to confront him. Are you doing this on purpose? He thought for a moment and said flatly, the lighting is better here. If you want a good seat, try to get a better score next time instead of being last. That was a clear provocation. I was furious. Not only did he steal my seat, but he mocked me too. I almost threw a punch. Chloe stopped me. For her sake, I held back, settling for just cursing him out. But it got worse. I don't know what Milo said to Chloe, but 2 days later, she broke up with me. She even gave me a lecture about how we should be focusing on our studies and that dating was a distraction. We could get together after the college entrance exams. Fine. So that's how you want to play it? Milo Sterling, you just wait. Don't think I won't get my chance for revenge. I made my own opportunity very quickly. At the next month's seat selection, my grades had improved a little, giving me some say in where I sat. And since Milo liked to sit in the back rows that nobody else wanted, I sat right next to him. I smiled provocatively. Well, Prez, looks like we're desk mates now. Happy? The meaning was clear. You'd better watch your back. I'm going to destroy you. But he ignored me, acting like he was deaf. I don't know what his deal was. I can't stand pretentious jerks. I had plenty of energy and tricks up my sleeve. However, I soon discovered I couldn't beat him in a fight. Every time I tried to pin him down and rough him up when no one was looking, he'd effortlessly counter and warn me not to mess with him. It was a little embarrassing, but thankfully not many people saw. Losing interest in physical fights, I stopped bothering him openly and resorted to petty, underhanded tricks like hiding his pens or pulling his chair out from under him. But it didn't seem to affect him much, and looking back, it was all pretty childish. As for the confession, that came a little later when I noticed he seemed to hate any kind of physical contact with me. He'd flinch if I even brushed against him by accident. I asked him, "You're not like homophobic, are you?" He ignored me again. I deliberately moved closer, and sure enough, he recoiled in disgust. I felt like I'd discovered a secret. I threw my arm around his shoulders excitedly. "I'm gay. Does that disgust you, baby? It's disgusting. Get off me." Well, that was all the encouragement I needed. It was a study hall, so I intentionally raised my voice. "Hey everyone, you know why I'm sitting next to the class president?" Sure enough, I had everyone's attention. Because I've had a crush on him for ages. A ripple went through the tedious, boring school day. The whole class erupted in laughter, and the room was instantly buzzing. But everyone knew I was joking. I was a known prankster who would confess to people just for helping me out. Besides, everyone knew Milo and I had fought before. Milo's face turned ugly. He slammed his hand on the desk. "What's so funny? Is your homework done? Leo, if you disrupt the class one more time, get out." The class went quiet, but everyone was still holding back laughter. He stared at the same page of his test booklet for the entire period. I knew I had gotten under his skin. I was humming a little tune on my way home that day, filled with the sweet thrill of revenge. It's strange that Milo still remembers all this ancient history 8 years later. Could it be that he saw through my robot disguise long ago and is saying all this to get back at me? Maybe he's testing me to see if I'll react. If so, I have to be even more careful. Whatever. I'll just keep playing the part of the butler bot, collect my money when the time is up, and get out of here. I went along with his story and offered some comforting words. If he forgot, he forgot. Someone as amazing as you can find someone much better. Milo said, I can't. I haven't loved anyone else since. I'm gonna take a shower. Go wait for me in my room. Can I resign right now? In theory, a robot can't refuse a master's command. I steeled myself and replied, I'm sorry, sir, but I am not yet equipped to provide that type of service. You may look forward to it in our next software update. Milo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You bots, I can't tell if you're too smart or not smart enough. I just wanted you to make the bed and teach you how to tidy my room. Can't you even do that? At that moment, all I could do was grovel. My apologies, sir. It was a misunderstanding. I will study diligently in the future. Milo's bedroom was usually locked, so no one could go in to clean it. Maybe because I didn't count as a person, he told me to come in and tidy up for him every day from now on. The bedroom was spotless, spacious, and tidy, with a faint scent of incense in the air. The books and miscellaneous items on the desk were stacked neatly by size, as if he had OCD. It fit my stereotype of Milo perfectly. What was there to tidy? I felt bad just bringing dust in. I stood in his room as still as a robot on standby, blinking and waiting respectfully for him to finish his shower. I snuck a peek at the digital clock on his desk. It was 1:30 a.m. I was about to die of exhaustion. I don't know how long it was before he came out with just a towel wrapped around his waist. But just then, I couldn't help but let out a yawn. Our eyes met, and I was instantly wide awake, silently looking away and pretending nothing happened. A yawn should be fine, right? Could even make me seem more advanced, more human-like. Yeah, it's fine. Come here. He beckoned me over. I walked up to him. He raised an eyebrow. Do robots get tired? Crap. He noticed. I started spouting nonsense. Yes, sir. We follow a similar circadian rhythm to humans and preferably need to charge at night. When our battery is low, we mimic the signs of human fatigue. His hand, still damp, suddenly reached out and touched the back of my neck. Where's the charging port? I almost jumped out of my skin. He looked at me with a complicated expression and squeezed the nape of my neck. I knew he was suspicious. A typical bionic robot would have a small metal plate on the back of its neck. His stare was making me nervous, but luckily, thinking on my feet, I managed to keep up the lie. The designers felt that exposing such a vital component made it vulnerable, so starting with my production batch, they moved it to the chest area. He wouldn't dare lift my shirt to check, right? That would be so inappropriate. All right, if you're tired, then go back and recharge. I didn't breathe a sigh of relief until I was back in my room. This money wasn't going to be as easy to earn as I thought. I didn't even know if I could last a month. I was getting paid for my acting skills and for taking this risk. $1 million didn't feel like that much anymore. All I could do was pray that this pain in the neck would come home less often. The next morning, I called my boss to get our stories straight, just in case anything else unexpected happened. After seeing Milo off in the morning, I was free again. There were probably cameras in the villa, so to avoid blowing my cover, I kept to a very small area, my own little room and the space immediately around it. I couldn't go out without an order. It was like being in prison. Housework, ironically, expanded my legitimate range of activity. Most of the cleaning was done by specialized machines. My job was just to maintain them, tidy up, water the plants, and do other random tasks. But while tidying Milo's room, I found a photograph tucked inside a notebook in his bedside table. It was a picture of him and me, taken on the day we graduated from high school. I had taken individual photos with everyone and was planning to skip him, but he came up and asked for one. Being the bigger person, I grudgingly agreed. If I remembered correctly, he took photos with lots of people. Why did he only keep mine? Was he planning to put a curse on me? I examined the photo carefully. Other than being a little yellowed, There was nothing strange about it, right? It's been 8 years. He wouldn't be that childish. I silently put the photo back where I found it. I went back to my chores, hoping to finish early and clock out. But then, while cleaning out another one of his hidden cabinets, I found a whole stack of photos in a box. I flipped through them casually. I was in every single one, and most of them were from high school. Many were photos I didn't even remember being taken. Some were ones I had posted on social media myself. It was a lot to process. After doing the same simple chores over and over, I was forced to admit one conclusion. Seemed like Milo actually had a crush on me. Even though he was handsome, fit, successful, and rich, I'm straight. I'm the one who's actually homophobic. I can't accept this. Ugh. Utterly depressed, I found a balcony and lit a cigarette. The more I thought about it, the more I blamed myself. I was young and clueless. I took a handsome, probably homophobic guy and turned him gay. When did Milo even turn gay? Thinking back to high school, life was so boring that a guy publicly confessing to another guy was a pretty big deal. I was just joking at the time, but the rumor spread and took on a life of its own. People even concocted this whole dramatic backstory about my long-standing, secret love for Milo. My friend from the next class, Alex, heard about it and came over to gloat. "Leo, I heard your class president said he likes you too. Is it true?" I didn't believe it for a second. After all, he couldn't get away from me fast enough. "I don't know. Why don't you ask him yourself?" I pointed to Milo, who was up ahead, engrossed in explaining a problem to a female classmate. It was a good chance to annoy him. Alex shouted for me, "Hey, Prez!" Milo turned around, looking at us warily. "How come you're not helping our Leo with his homework? He doesn't get it either. Have you found someone new?" Milo clearly didn't want to deal with us. He turned back to the girl. I put on a high-pitched, teasing voice. "Hubby, say something." The crowd around us burst into laughter. He shot me a helpless glare, his ears turning red with anger. I loved seeing him mad but unable to do anything about it. I said things like that, both openly and subtly, more than once. I even managed to piss him off so much that he'd throw down his pen and skip class. Looking back, I guess I was a bit of a jerk. Fortunately, it was already April by then, so even if he was miserable, he only had to endure my torment for 2 months. I really shouldn't dwell on those cringy memories. The more I think about them, the more messed up it all seems. Sometimes I really want to go back in time and punch myself. Why did I have to be such a little shit? What have I done? What can I do now? I guess I just have to pretend I don't know anything. After all, I'm as straight as an arrow. I can't be with a man. To alleviate some of my guilt, I decided to be nicer to him from now on. I floated through the next few days in a daze until I got word that Milo was coming back. I stood at the door waiting for him. He was brought home by a woman. He was completely wasted, probably from another business meeting. I was about to help, but the woman waved me off, so I just followed behind them. We chatted a bit, and I learned that he had indeed been at a business dinner. She told me his stomach problems were from all the drinking and that I should try to get him to cut back. How am I supposed to do that? I'm just a little robot. After they got him to his room, the woman left. I was a little disappointed. She seemed to know her way around so well. I thought she was the lady of the house. Later that night, I was woken up by a message from Milo. He wanted me to make him some tea to sober up. I quickly brewed the tea and brought it to him. When I entered his room, he had already opened his laptop and started working. He looked pale and exhausted, rubbing his forehead as if he was forcing himself to stay awake. Being a CEO, he's really not afraid of dropping dead from overwork. As a robot, it was my duty to show some concern. "Sir, it's very late. You've just been drinking and now you're working again. This is bad for your health. It would be best to rest for the night and work tomorrow." He took the tea from me, downed it in one gulp and sighed. "You're nothing like him. No kidding. If I were exactly like the real me, how could I show off my superb acting skills? Can you pretend to be him?" "No, I want to call a cab and run right now." That's what I was thinking, but my professional self replied, "Are you referring to Mr. Leo, sir? What kind of person is he? If you tell me, Perhaps I can try to play the part. He thought for a moment, then smiled. Never mind. The way you are now is fine. After all, I've never seen him so obedient and submissive. Excuse me? What do you mean by that? You'd better explain yourself. He suddenly pulled me into his arms, and I lost my balance, landing right in his lap. Well, now I was stuck. Couldn't leave, but I couldn't stay. I was frozen. So obedient. My obedience is due to my excellent professional ethics. He wouldn't do anything to a robot, right? I quickly regained my composure and replied matter-of-factly, "You are my master. I am programmed to obey your commands." He looked into my eyes. "You have to pay the price for the things you've said and done." I felt a pang of guilt. What price? He couldn't possibly cross that line, could he? I had a very bad feeling about this. His face got closer and closer to mine, and my panic grew. My mind raced, trying to figure out a plausible way to escape. I don't think my brain has ever worked so fast. Thankfully, he stopped. He didn't do anything, but he held me in a tight embrace. Are you nervous, too? Who wouldn't be panicking in this situation? And there's something hard poking my back. I tried to keep my voice steady. Of course. I have all the emotions a human has. Dude, can you just let me go? I instinctively tried to pull away, but he just held me tighter. His body felt unusually warm. It was making me more and more nervous, my heart pounding faster and faster. I don't know how much time passed. I was starting to think he'd fallen asleep. I managed to break free and realized that not only was he drunk, but he also had a fever. "Are you okay?" He didn't answer. The only response was his labored breathing. Crap, is he going to die? Just as I was about to call 911, he grabbed my hand. "I'm fine. I'll be okay after some medicine. Don't worry about me." How could I not worry? I immediately called his doctor to come over, planning to use recharging as an excuse to slip away. The doctor stopped me and instructed me to take good care of him, explaining that he was sick from overwork. Milo needed to rest at home for a while. The doctor told me to make sure he took his medicine on time and to absolutely forbid him from staying up late or drinking alcohol or coffee. It wasn't just because those things were bad for him, it was crucial because some of his medications could have a severe reaction with alcohol. He stayed home for the next few days, and I supervised his medication schedule as instructed by the doctor. Other than making sure he took his medicine and cooking his meals, I avoided him as much as possible. If there were no chores to do, I'd make some up just to avoid being summoned by him. But there were only so many things to do, the same simple household tasks over and over. I ended up watering his few potted plants so many times they were on the verge of drowning. I was living on edge, my anxiety growing with each passing day. Should I run? But then the last 2 weeks would have been for nothing. If I don't run, what if? What are you doing? I've seen you change the water in the fish tank 5 times and mop this floor 3 times. We have machines for that. Milo appeared behind me like a ghost, startling me so badly I almost dropped the mop. "Are you that scared of me? Why do you keep avoiding me?" Crap. He noticed. I put down my cleaning supplies, took a deep breath, and quickly switched into work mode. As a butler, it is my duty to respect the master of the house. Since you are home, I wish to provide you with the best possible living environment. The machines may not be as thorough. I can do a better job. Of course, if you have other instructions, please let me know. Milo actually laughed at that. So many excuses. Since you're so obedient, how about I order you to stop working and not leave my sight? Can you do that? My palms started to sweat. I could handle him being angry or yelling at me, but laughing? What did that mean? I cursed him out 1,000 times in my head, but on the surface I said, "Yes, sir. As you wish." I was forced to follow him around, never leaving his side. Although Milo didn't do anything to me, the invisible pressure he exuded always made me feel like if he found out I was a fake robot who had scammed him, he would literally tear me apart. That night, I called my boss and told him I wanted to quit. The boss exploded. "When did you get so thin-skinned? You never used to be like this, you coward. Besides, Mr. Sterling is such a nice guy, and he's so handsome. Everyone who meets him likes him. You should spend more time with him. If I spend any more time with him, I'm going to end up dead at his hands." He's not nearly as gentle as he looks. Ultimately, this was all because of the crap I pulled in the past. I felt too guilty to face him. Boss, it's not that simple. I feel like I'm about to be exposed. I can't keep this up. Can't I just give up the money? TSK. It's almost been a month. Just hang in there for one more. I put a rush on the factory order, so the new robot will be ready in a month, not 3. How about this? Whether you get exposed or not, the $1 million is yours. Okay. And if you complete the mission successfully, I'll give you an extra $500,000, plus a bigger year-end bonus. How's that for a deal? I thought about it for exactly 1 second and ultimately caved to the money. Well, since you put it that way, fine, I agreed reluctantly. A month will fly by. Just tough it out. From then on, I'd look at my countdown every morning and tell myself that. Milo stayed home to rest for almost a week. He said he was on leave, but he had really just changed his office location. He barely even left the house. I'd pretty much overheard all of his business secrets. But what good was that to me? It only increased my risk of being assassinated. The doctor said he needed to rest for 2 weeks, which meant I still had over 20 days of this to go. It felt like a life sentence. Thankfully, I overheard him on the phone saying he had to attend some big shot's birthday party tonight. I could finally get a night off. As he was about to leave that evening, I pretended to be concerned. Don't drink any alcohol after taking your medicine. Remember to come back early and get some rest. Let me know if you need anything. Be careful on the road. Better yet, go out and party for 3 days and 3 nights and don't come back. Milo looked at me quizzically. You seem happy that I'm leaving. Oops. I guess it was a little too obvious. I quickly covered. When you're happy, I'm happy, of course. I believe I said you have to stay with me at all times and not leave my sight. Correct? I would advise against taking me to such an important occasion. It's not that important, just my uncle's birthday. Is it too late for me to order you to come with me now? Of course not. I changed out of my work uniform and into a slightly more formal suit, following him like a zombie to his uncle's birthday party. There weren't many people there. Milo told me it was all family, so I didn't need to be too formal. I gave him a half-hearted yes. I'd love to not be formal, but as a robot, I hadn't eaten anything before he dragged me here. Now all I could do was stare at the pastries on the table, unable to eat, getting hungrier by the second. I silently tore my gaze away, out of sight, out of mind. Not watching where I was going, I bumped into a young man in his early 20s who was walking toward us. He looked me over and asked, "Bro, who's this? I've never seen him before." Milo turned around, but before he could answer, his phone rang. It was his uncle. He had to go. Milo told me to stay put and get to know some people, and that he'd be right back. I watched him go upstairs, and a smile spread across my face. I finally had a chance to be myself. My sales instincts kicked in on the spot. My name is Leo. I'm the latest smart butler robot from Homestead Robotics. Great reviews, affordable price, and my features include... Before I could finish, the young man cut me off, his eyes wide with surprise. You're a robot? You look so real. There were a few other robots at the party, clearing tables and serving drinks. They looked human, but their eyes were mostly vacant. You could tell they were bots if you looked closely. Because I looked so human, 3 or 4 other young people gathered around to check me out. You're really good looking. Can I touch you? Of course. It wasn't a difficult request, so I couldn't really say no, but it felt a little weird. I immediately regretted it. These kids had no sense of personal space. They were pinching my cheeks, pulling my hair, and touching me all over. Whatever. I wasn't going to let them get away with it for free. I should at least try to make a sale. If you like my model, just tell them my name at the store, and you can get a 10% discount. Really? Your company makes amazing robots. You're the most realistic and best-looking one I've ever seen. His words soothed my irritation, and I felt a little pleased. Really? Thanks. What are you all doing? Hearing Milo's voice, I sucked in a sharp breath, a strange sense of panic washing over me. Why was he back so soon? I hadn't even had a chance to get any food. What a letdown. The young people silently retracted their paws. Bro, this robot is amazing. Give him to me. Huh? You can just order another one. Milo frowned, shot the young man a cold look, and pulled me to his side. He leaned in and whispered reproachfully in my ear, "Don't wander off." I shot him a cold look back. "Dude, you're the one who told me to get to know them." "Bro, get me one too." Another young man chimed in. Milo tightened his grip on my hand and said to them, "Sorry, he's not a robot. He's the person I love." When did he figure it out? Or was he just saying that on purpose? The kids gave me a look loaded with meaning, as if to say, "You guys are into some kinky stuff." Huh? I'm not, I'm a respectable person now. After they walked away, I asked Milo, still trying to deceive myself, that, you were joking, right? He smiled slightly and nodded. Yeah. He was getting scarier and scarier. He was so much more normal 8 years ago. Whatever. I'm already here. Whether he knows or not, I'll just keep playing the part of the robot and get through tonight. I followed him as he chatted with various people, some talking business, some catching up, and some gossiping about his personal life. He really was different from before, putting on a very approachable act. If I hadn't been beaten up by him back in the day and didn't know the things he'd done, I might have actually been fooled by his polished exterior. A few of Milo's friends heard that I was the person he loved and came over to meet me. Milo introduced me as Leo. In their eyes, I was now Milo's boyfriend. They found it fascinating. The man who hadn't been in a relationship for 800 years suddenly had a partner. They all wanted to have a drink with me. Mr. Sterling, what should we call him? The wifey? No, that doesn't sound right. I was a bit numb. Just call me by my name, I corrected. I was starving, and while a robot couldn't eat, it could certainly drink. I gladly accepted the glass of wine. But he intercepted it, planning to drink it for me. I was a dedicated butler. Of course I remembered he couldn't drink. I snatched the glass back and downed it in one go. You're still recovering. You can't drink. The wine was delicious, but drinking it on an empty stomach went straight to my head. I quickly hit it off with these guys, getting the scoop on each of them and their relationships with Milo. Before the party was even over, Milo drove me home. On the way, Milo asked me a few questions about what I'd been up to over the years. I dodged everyone, instead enthusiastically asking him thoughtful questions like whether he needed a late-night snack. He seemed displeased and ignored me for the rest of the ride, finally telling me to just shut up. What could I do? It would be so awkward if I dropped the act now. When we got home, I continued to follow him around as usual. You like following me that much? It was your previous order. If you don't like it, I can stop. You're so obedient. Go lock the door. I had a very bad feeling about this. I made up a ridiculous excuse. My house is on fire. I have to go. I tried to leave, but the door had already slid shut quietly. My feelings for you. You've known for a long time, haven't you? Milo sighed softly. Why aren't you saying anything? The door isn't locked yet. If you want to leave, you can go. I've been looking for you for so long. I'm used to being alone. I can just spend the rest of my life by myself. My guilt peaked. I shouldn't have made those awful jokes back then. Fine, it was my fault. I had to admit he was an amazing guy, and I did have a tiny bit of admiration for him. But, just as I hesitated for a moment, the door clicked shut. Since you're not leaving, can I take that as you giving me permission to pursue you? Okay. Did I even have a choice? When I didn't answer, he bit down hard on my shoulder. A small bead of red blood trickled down my skin. Fuck. Are you a dog, Milo? I finally couldn't hold it in anymore and swore at him. Yeah, so what? Done with the act? Or have your company's robots learned to swear? After he said that, he even wiped at the bite mark he'd made. I winced in pain, fighting the urge to bite him back. See? You bleed. And where's your metal plate? Where is it? Couldn't feel it. How did I never realize how unhinged he was? I was definitely getting a rabies shot, no matter what. I shoved him away. Milo, when did you figure out I wasn't a robot? He just retorted, was it that hard to figure out? Seeing his lack of sincerity, I pretended to leave. He grabbed me, his gaze intense. You know, I really love you. I'm straight. Damn it. This can't happen. Milo grabbed me again. Straight? Are you sure? Your body is a lot more honest than your mouth. He had me cornered. I didn't dare speak or move. A man has to pay the price for the things he's said and done. I did indeed pay a painful price for my deception. From that day on, I never dared to lie to him again. The next day, he dragged me out of bed and took me to see my boss to buy out my contract. "Mr. Sterling, what brings you here in person? Please have a seat." My boss looked like he'd just seen the god of wealth, his eyes crinkling into slits. When he looked at me, though, he frowned with a hint of warning. He probably thought I'd messed up and Milo was here to return the defective product. Milo took my hand, and the look in my boss's eyes instantly became complicated. "So, Mr. Sterling, how's our robot working out for you?" Milo answered honestly, "He's great. But I did a thorough inspection yesterday, and he's a fake." My boss looked a little awkward and forced a smile. "Well, we never intended to deceive you. How about this? I'll give you a full refund." Milo said, "No need. I'm not here for a refund. I'm just here to let you know that I'm taking him with me. He won't be coming back." Oh, of course. That's his choice. After packing my things, I left with him. Everything happened so fast it felt like a dream. It wasn't until I was back in his car that I realized I'd lost my job. "You made me quit. What am I supposed to do for work now?" "Work for me, of course. Where else would you go? When did I ever say I wanted to be with you? Are you planning to love me and leave me? Not only are you going back on your word, but you're also refusing to take responsibility for your actions. Is that it?" I wanted to argue back, but afraid of paying another painful price, I reluctantly answered, "No." Milo was very satisfied. "That's more like it. From now on, call me what you used to call me. Let's hear it a couple of times." Back then, I had no shame and could say anything. But now I had to bow to the circumstances. I mumbled quickly under my breath, "Hubby, what was that? I can't hear you. Say it again." Milo was really pushing his luck. I couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Son, my dear son, Milo Sterling." He laughed, but it was laced with anger. He grabbed me. "The car hasn't pulled out yet. I can't guarantee no one will pass by." I don't know what happened to Milo over the years, but he had somehow become even more twisted than me. I had a very bad feeling about this. Hubby, I forced myself to say. After a long pause, "You're much more obedient than you used to be. You just wait, Milo Sterling. I won't forget this." Bonus chapter. I've loved Leo for a very long time. If there was a beginning, it was probably that evening when everyone else had gone home, leaving just the two of us in the classroom. I was working on a test paper, and he was sitting in front of me, eating a tangerine. My eraser accidentally rolled onto the floor. He bent down to pick it up, then turned and handed it back to me. The setting sun lit up the side of his face, his eyelashes fluttering, his eyes as clear as amber. "What are you looking at? Is there something on my face?" "Here's your eraser." I realized I'd been staring and quickly looked away. "Nothing. Thanks. Want some tangerine?" He offered me a piece. I shook my head and pretended to go back to my work, not daring to look at him any longer. After that, our paths never crossed again. He wasn't a good student. He smoked, drank, dyed his hair, and got into fights. But he was loyal. If someone was good to him, he'd repay them tenfold. He was too good, and I was always afraid he'd get taken advantage of. As class president, and with my personal feelings for him, I tried my best to correct his behavior whenever he did something wrong, hoping to steer him in a better direction. But he seemed to have misunderstood my intentions, always thinking I was targeting him and constantly looking for trouble. To be honest, a part of me was secretly thrilled. At least it got his attention and gave us a reason to interact. Later, when he started dating someone, I broke them up. It wasn't for his own good. It was because I couldn't stand it. I couldn't accept him being with someone else, at least not in front of me. I admit I'm a vile, dark person. I lied to myself, pretending that everything I did was for his own good, when in reality, I wanted to possess him completely. I was well aware that my obsession with him was becoming pathological. I had to restrain myself with all my might, terrified of letting any hint of it show. But then he deliberately provoked me, becoming my desk mate and even confessing to me. Of course, I knew he was just trying to piss me off, but it was too much. We were too close. He could never understand that beneath my calm exterior, my heart was a raging storm. My rationality was like a small boat about to be capsized by the massive waves. I decided to distance myself from him. He was too dangerous. I actually considered telling him the truth. But in the end, I never confessed my feelings. He already disliked me. I was afraid he'd hate me even more. I decided there was no point. I told myself he was just messing with my head. And besides, he was just a passerby in my life. Maybe in a couple of years, I'd forget him. But I never met anyone like him again. He was irreplaceable, and I could never forget him. Years later, after I graduated, my parents wanted me to stay abroad, but I chose to return to our old city. Deep down, I think I was holding onto an unrealistic, secret hope. But I didn't want to admit it. I happened to hear that he was working as a salesperson for a robotics company. I had my assistant go check it out. My assistant called and said Leo wasn't working there anymore, but there was a robot for sale that looked just like him. Without hesitation, I bought it for a high price. Soon I saw him. He looked so much like him, even more handsome than I remembered. Seeing him again still made my heart skip a beat. In that moment, I had to admit I'd been in love with him for almost 10 years. I had people look into Leo's whereabouts. I wanted to pursue him. After all, a robot isn't a living person. It would just be a nice decoration to have at home. I was so busy with work that I forgot all about it. Until one day, after a few drinks, I came home in a daze. I kept having the illusion that the little robot was Leo himself. I couldn't help but pull him into a tight embrace. That's when I heard his heartbeat. How could a robot have a heartbeat? I thought I was dreaming. I held him tighter, afraid I would wake up at any moment. The next morning, when I was sober, I finally went through my unread messages and found the one telling me about Leo's situation. Turned out he hadn't quit. He had been working at that company all along but had recently gone missing. Suddenly, I found the whole thing very interesting. I wanted to see just how long he could keep up the act. Epilogue. One weekend morning, my phone suddenly rang, waking me up. The caller ID showed it was my former boss, whom I hadn't seen in 2 weeks. I'd been gone for so long. Why was he calling me? I answered, and a familiar voice came through. Leo, my boy. The robot Mr. Sterling ordered has been delivered to your house. He's on a business trip, so could you do me a favor and sign for it? Milo didn't cancel the robot order. I slowly went downstairs to sign for the delivery. My ex-boss smiled apologetically. Sorry about this. We were supposed to deliver it on the 20th of last month, but we got delayed. The realism of the bionic robot was genuinely startling. Even my own mother wouldn't be able to tell us apart. The level of detail made it clear that this thing was not cheap. After sending the swindler on his way, I looked at the smiling robot and had a brilliant idea. I was gonna mess with Milo. Before Milo got back that night, I carefully trained the robot to imitate my mannerisms, just to see if he could tell us apart. By evening, I was a little disappointed. Maybe because we didn't have enough time, the robot could only manage a 5 or 6 out of 10 imitation. Just as I was about to give up, Milo came home. The robot reacted instantly. Hubby, you're finally back. I missed you so much. You must be tired from your trip. TSK. The words were so cheesy, but the delivery was so stiff. It was just weird. He gave himself away the moment he opened his mouth. Milo looked up, surprised for a second, then his gaze went past the robot to me. He smiled. Why are there 2 Leos? The robot said, Hubby, he's the robot that was delivered today. I cut him off. All right, stop teasing him. I'm the real Leo. This robot's impression of me sucks. But Milo acted as if he really couldn't tell the difference. He reached out and pinched my cheek. I don't believe you. Did his business trip make him stupid? We've been together for 2 months. And he can't even get this easy question right. I quickly leaned in and kissed him. Believe me now? Milo shook his head. Not necessarily. I'll have to conduct a thorough inspection. I got it now. He was messing with me again. Pushing your luck? I decided to strike first. I pulled him into an embrace, my hands roaming freely. We were so close that his faint cologne was making my head spin. I swallowed hard, wanting to devour him. I pretended to be angry. Milo Sterling, what's going on in that head of yours? Am I not enough for you? You needed another one? Hearing this, the robot tactfully backed away, closed its eyes, and powered down. Milo looked innocent, his breathing ragged. I only want you. I forgot to tell Mr. Zhang to cancel the order. If you don't like it, I'll have him make a new one. He took out his phone as if to call. I didn't believe he forgot. My roaming hands, seeking revenge, found their target. What's the point of calling now? Milo let out a muffled groan, his phone slipping from his grasp and clattering to the floor. What do you want to do, then? He was asking the obvious. As we got closer, I could see my own reflection clearly in his deep eyes. The temperature in the room was rising. My palms grew hot, my very soul starting to boil. Tonight, Milo Sterling was not holding back at all.